One of the big reasons why I quit Honkai Star Rail was simply the fact that for all of this time that I was putting in, there were so many hours out of that were unenjoyable, that really had me questioning why I was, investing so much time, why I was like, ruining my Sundays or ruining like one day of the week to spend so much time on something that I wasn't actively enjoying. And, there are a lot of reasons for that. Gameplay wise, you have the power creep. Storytelling wise, you have all these unskippable cutscenes and just really, really long and really bloated dialogues that are almost like they're trying to farm your playtime instead of actually make a good storytelling experience. Across this react, what I want to do is, draw some parallels between my experience in Wuthering Waves and also my experiences in Honkai Star Rail. Ryuku-sensei, teach me.
I can't. I just can't anymore. I feel like I'm going insane hearing this all the damn time. Honkai Star Rail is amazing. Not like that Genshin. Penacony, more like Pikacony. Am I right? No. You're not right. In fact, you are absolutely wrong. Now, hear me when I say this, and I'm speaking to you. Yes, you. Specifically you.
Yes?
Honkai Star... This gets closer. Honkai Star Rail fucking sucks. And I can prove it with numbers.
Yes, science!
Now, let me explain. First of all, do I even play Honkai Star Rail? Yes. Kinda. I mean, I log in, stare at Himiko, do my dailies, stare at Kafka, do the simulated universe each week, stare at Hanya, and have slowly been building up my characters. I started back around mid-March after watching the 2.1 live stream about all the new rewards after the anniversary.
One of the big things about a story, especially in a gacha game, right, is the fact that it is delivered piecemeal when you are living the updates. You do one part of it, you wait like 4 to 5 weeks, you do the next part, you wait another 4 to 5 weeks, and then you do the next part. That's why sometimes shorter story patches like we're seeing in Wuwa, a lot of people might be like, oh, there's not that much content. Oh, it's too fast. I want more story. Then you have this guy on the other end of the spectrum, right? Super long story patches in HSR, and then he's coming into it with all of Penacony available for him.
Genshin could still never, and I wanted to quickly grind up through all the content from 1.0 all the way through to 2.1 to get Acheron, because I'm a disgusting little simp that wants her to step on my I got Sparkle, Dr.
Why did he censor that, but then not the F-bomb at the start of his video? Was... like, what? Come on, man. Like, what's the point? What are we doing here, man?
Ratio was in my inbox, as well as all the free pulls. The introduction to the game was really fun and engaging. I enjoyed playing through the Herta space station and pretty much everything on Belobog.
I think that Herta space station could have been a little bit better as a prologue. It wasn't like the most exciting thing ever. I thought it was okay, but Belobog for sure was very, very well paced. It was awesome. I enjoyed Belobog a lot, and I think it was one of the big reasons why, if you're somebody that wasn't enjoying Penacony, you almost stayed because you knew that these devs were capable of great storytelling, right? They were really capable of telling a good tale, and the kind of expectation was, right, that they were going to carry it forward. Kind of dropped the ball a little bit in the Lofu, but, Penacony, people were thinking that it was going to come back. Like, when you have a past success, right, you expect that some parts of that success are going to be carried forward into the next versions, and we'll see if it happened.
Especially Cocolia. Huh? I thought you said Honkai Star Rail sucks. You're glazing it harder than a Krispy Kreme donut right now. When are you gonna... Yeah. I'm gonna get to that. Shut the fuck up. It had good design, action, pacing. The story wasn't too simple, but still easy to follow. There was
Agreed,
a good balance
for
of
Belobog,
puzzles,
for sure.
battles,
100%.
and story all woven together well to make the storytelling experience really enjoyable, with a fantastic soundtrack and an amazing finale with the Cocolia fight. And then
that song during the Cocolia boss fight was one of the most hype moments in gacha. The rock song that plays when Cocolia drops down that giant meteor on you guys, absolute cinema. Like, that clears low-key all of Penacony. That one boss fight clears like at least 95% of Penacony. You feel like an actual hero during that scene. Penacony feels like it's stuffing characters to sell them. The story is a side thing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll get to Zhanzhou Lofu. No one really likes that area. Just wait until you get to Penacony.
I did not like the Zhanzhou Lofu. It just felt like not enough stuff was happening. It felt kind of slow-paced to me.
Zhanzhou Lofu wasn't the worst. Definitely a step down from the massive high that we got after the end of Belobog, but on the whole, I don't actually mind Zhanzhou Lofu. It was an interesting world with a completely different vibe. The music was good, the puzzles were fun and interesting, and we got new lore. The thing that really dragged it down, in my opinion, was the unnecessary jargon for relatively simple concepts.
I'm here to witness the divination of the matrix of prescience.
Wasn't one of the biggest critiques of Wuthering Waves the jargon? All of that jargon, right, that we were getting in 1.3?
Oh my gosh, what a lore dump. Shorekeeper said Mobius loop. She said Mobius loop, guys. What does that mean? Oh my god, lore dump.
And then we got Matrix of Prescience. Mobius loop actually exists in the real world. It's not fiction. The Matrix of Prescience is literally made up with no root to reality. One is taking an actual word or scientific concept that exists in the real world, and then this is just making shit up. I'm gonna be honest, I think one is a lot worse than the other. One is a lot worse than the other if you're gonna like have like jargon, right? One that's actually real and, you know, potentially could educate you in real life and be like actually applicable versus Matrix of Prescience. What is that? What does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
You're welcome.
I'm here to witness the divination of the matrix of prescience. Just speak.
He's killing it right now. He's killing it.
In English, goddammit. But whatever, like I said, putting aside the random jargon and exposition,
I believe we are dealing with the so-called disciples of Sanctus Medicus.
Disciples of Sanctus Medicus. That's long.
Enjo has the blessing of the Rainbow Arbiter and the Ambrosial Arbor's dove.
Hey, by the way, guys, this was all in one dialogue. Like I said, guys, this is what a good first impression does. Belobog, no jargon. Belobog, good storytelling, right? Because everybody had such a good experience in Belobog, they excuse this. Every player had a good experience in Belobog, and they excuse this. Even though it is, I genuinely think it's worse than like the lore dump, the jargon in Wuthering Waves. But because people were like, oh, the Wuthering Waves story was so bad in 1.0. Now, suddenly, it's just like everybody comes out of the woodworks and just goes crazy the second they see a word they don't immediately know about in Wuwa. While over here, they're literally just making up random terms and putting the additional explanation on top of the words. Like right here, right? Right here. And then, like, this is what's going on in the first update of the game. And we're having, like, a little bit of this in Wuthering Waves, and then people are just, like, freaking the fuck out. But that's what a first impression does. This is excused because people enjoyed Belobog so much.
it wasn't the worst area I've ever been to. Oh no, that crown undeniably goes to Penacony. Okay, come here. Closer. A little more. Closer. Penacony.
Hey, join the club, man. I and many players quit the game after Firefly's banner. Many players quit the game.
I've never had a worse gaming experience in my life.
Agreed. Penacony and its events? Oh god.
I've been playing games since I could hold a controller. I can remember playing Sonic the Hedgehog on the original Sega Mega Drive back when I was about 3 or 4 years old.
This guy's really old. He's talking about Sonic the Hedgehog on like the consoles released in like 1980.
I was a kid. I just like seeing the spinny ball go zoom. Anyway, my point is I've been playing games for a long ass time. And never in my 35 years on this planet have I raged at
Hey, can we put that in the video? I think Born Accident just said that he's 70.
just how mind-numbingly boring Penacony is. And yes, I am including that Aranara quest from Genshin.
Just so you guys know, that Aranara quest in Genshin Impact is 11 hours long.
Belobog was good. Jonjo Lofu wasn't bad. But then it just dives off a cliff with Penacony. The biggest problem with Penacony is that it's just not fun. Like, at all. You literally cannot do a single thing for the first hour and a half where you get to that one battle that takes about a minute to clear. And after that, you're right back to yapping for another 48 minutes with literally nothing to do but run around with Firefly doing real important stuff like roulette, ice cream, and bubble pinball, I guess.
A lot of people liked this part of the story. But the fact of the matter is, you're literally not really doing anything to progress the story, right? I think the mission objective at this scene where you're like getting food and you're like playing pinball and you're like, you know, just doing fun stuff together, playing the slots. The quest is literally have fun or like relax with Firefly. I'm like, couldn't that have been in the story quest to a degree, right? It was literally like a date. And it's like, they're not progressing the story. And it begs the question, right? Why wasn't this part like a story quest? Oh, you know, it's because, hey, we need to have people playing this game for 30 hours, right, during the patch.
Oh, got another battle. That's another 1 minute of something, I guess, against a fucking trash.
I think I said this in like somebody's chat while they were reacting to it. It's kind of mean, but I was like, Firefly was like the most human interaction that like half of HSR's players have had in like years. If we're frankly being honest.
I actually timed how much turn-based action RPG we got in this turn-based action RPG game. So 2.0 takes about 5.5 hours to complete.
5.5 hours to complete 2.0.
Right? Keep in mind this is about the same amount of time it took for us to complete the entirety of Belobog.
So, The 2.0 patch story-wise was the same exact length of the entire 1.0 Belobog story.
And this is just the introduction to Penacony. So yeah, 5.5 hours, and of that you spend a grand total of 9 minutes, 24 seconds actually doing that.
Guys, that's diabolical. 9 minutes out of 5 hours and 30 minutes of gameplay, right? The recorded gameplay.
That is literally 2.85% of the time doing the thing you came to this game to do.
Think about it this way as well. The more well-built your characters were in Honkai Star Rail, the less time you were spending in that combat, right? Theoretically, if somebody went in with like all E6 characters and like hyper invested in their teams, the story would soon become 5 minutes or 4 minutes or 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes of combat, 1 minute of combat, because then you one-shot everything, right? And then the rest of it, then it turns into like 5 hours and 20 minutes of the story.
So it's not good if you're not constantly fighting? Is that what you're trying to say? No, not at all. I don't need it to be 100% fighting all the time. Hell, I don't need it to be 50%.
You don't need that.
But less than 3% is not nearly enough.
3% is under the assumption that you have like these average relics, average, characters and stuff that aren't like, destroying everything, right? The more you play the game, the less you play it.
I didn't hate everything though. There's the interactive section with Firefly. That was all right. Took about 15 minutes though. Then there's a time that we're in the dreamscape. This is the only area in Penacony that I actually enjoyed. This is what we were promised in the beginning with that whole scene with Akron. And when we were there, I immediately felt a major shift in tone and storytelling that was completely absent so far. I'm guessing this is where the story gets good. At least I'm hoping. Too bad we were only there for about 45 minutes, max. Most of the time, you can't really do anything but go to the next dialogue location and sit around watching people yap. How much yap, you ask? Again, I timed it. 3 hours, 49 minutes, and 36 fucking agonizing seconds of yap.
That's just
out
the
of
dialogue.
5 hours and 17 minutes of story, might I remind you. And at the end, the big twist, the big reveal is that Robin is dead.
Oh no. I know.
Oh, you mean the girl that only had 3 minutes and 43 seconds of screen time this entire quest? That girl? We were supposed to care that she died? Her own song has a longer lifespan than she does. Seriously, why was I supposed to care?
Oh my god. That's so good. That's so good. She had less dialogue than the length of her song. Or not even less dialogue, like less literal screen time.
Then on to 2.1 when we continue on with Trailblazer's story.
Oh
right?
my god.
Wrong. Oh, this quest. This fucking quest. Oh my god. It pissed me off so much I was about ready to punch through my desk. I thought 2.0 was bad, but I had absolutely no idea about the mind-numbing torture I was about to get myself through. Looking back on it, I would rather French kiss a Dementor than go through all this again. The quest is just less than 6 hours long, and 4.5 hours of that is nothing but pure fucking yeah.
Reflecting back on it, 2.1 was one of the worst patches I've ever seen.
Shut up. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck. There was a total of about 24 minutes worth of fighting. 13.5 minutes of those weren't necessary to the story at all. 45 seconds were necessary to the story. And the last 11 minutes were the fight against Aventurine. You spent more time staring at static images listening to people talk about deep politics and very important theological stuff you have no idea about. What do you mean? It made sense. I followed it. Were you even paying attention to the story? Yes. Yes, I was, actually. I didn't skip a single line of dialogue. I was a good little boy and I took it all in. And all this stuff that went on about in Penacony made literally no fucking sense. For a new player, that is.
I like how all of you guys are like saying in chat right now, 2.6 is going to destroy this guy. I don't think he's going to make it there, guys. I don't think he's going to make it to 2.6. I think he quit the game. I don't think he's going to play it again. It would have to be like a sub goal for his Twitch to play 2.6. He's monetizing his mental health, ladies and gentlemen. He's monetizing his mental health.
Here's the thing. A lot of the stuff being talked about in Penacony, you have to play through the simulated universe several dozen times.
The Divergent universe, the SimU, I'm gonna be honest, nobody reads that shit. You're over here, you're trying to do like your weekly run to get your goddamn jades. And then the game just decides to drop you a 5-paragraph essay right as you're about to enter the final boss of the SU. What? I remember at one point I was like talking to an Aeon and I had to click like the next dialogue button like 10 times just to get to the boss. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm trying to get my weekly rewards.
You have to have gone through all the different encounters and read through all the dialogue trees there are to understand what was going on. All this stuff about the hunt this, harmony that, nihility, emanators, jipe.
You don't know anything about this unless you're actively engaging with the SU. You don't know anything about this.
All of that was hardly even mentioned, let alone explained in the main story. Like, at all. And maybe I'm a little bit naive for thinking this, but I think if something is going to be talked about in the story, it should be properly introduced and explained in the story.
It almost becomes an expectation that you have like the lore in the background from the SU to understand the story.
Wild concept, I know. Also, another hot take here. But I thought the main story quest was supposed to, you know, follow the main character. The majority of 2.1 was from the perspective of someone that I could literally not give two flying f***s about.
Aventurine.
Aventurine. Oh my god. In 2.0, he was on stream for a total of like, say, 30 minutes. Most of the time, he was being a dick. And in 2.1, you're supposed to spend most of the time in his point of view, following his story, talking about things that we don't know, doing things we don't care about, talking to NPCs we're going to forget about. Why was this in the main story quest? I literally could not have cared less about Aventurine when going through this, and I was slowly hating him more and more the longer I was forced to play as this golden-haired boy with freshly shaved testicles on his chest. Well, it's supposed to set up his motivations for the final battle, and yeah, and character story quests exist exactly for this reason. What they should have done is saved all of that for a quest that we have to do after we, Trailblazer, go through our own story. Go through that, make Aventurine seem like the villain, have the big fight with Aventurine, yada yada yada. Then we have a character story quest unlocked where we flash back to go through all of Aventurine's stuff. That would recontextualize how we see him as a character and put everything in a new light.
I'm in the majority of people when I say having that juxtaposition, right, between somebody acting like a villain and then finding out why they were a villain afterwards, that's better than finding out somebody's not a villain and then them acting like a villain. But hey, guys, hey, they had to pad the playtime for the patch to drive up that engagement, get more playtime, get more hours on like the Google Play Store analytics. That's what they needed to do, right? So they sacrificed the storytelling for basically just the purpose of extending playtime. And obviously, that's this company's prerogative, right? But the end result is one of the worst storytelling experiences in gacha gaming.
If you're familiar with Harry Potter, you'll understand what I mean. We go through that story thinking Snape is a bad guy out to get Harry. It's not until far into the later books that we get his backstory, and
this is a great
changes
example.
How we see him as a character and his actions in the story so far. If we had known that backstory before all of this, it would have ruined many narratives and plot twists.
Everyone knows Harry Potter, right? Imagine that you know Snape's a good guy since the start of the story. And you're just like, dude, why is he just being a dick to Harry this entire time? Like, dude, we know you're good. We know you're good, man. Like, stop being a dick to Harry. It just doesn't land. Right? That Aventurine boss was just so mid because of that. I was just like, okay, now he's being a villain for fun.
So putting aside all the Aventurine stuff, we spent about 2.5 hours as Trailblazer, and what we were doing? Going from one location to another to stand around talking. Most of the dialogue is basically recapping what we just went through in 2.0. That is until the bar sequence. Quick question. What was the fucking point of that bar sequence? Did I miss something? Like, Shaban is hot and all, don't get me wrong. But on the whole, the entire thing had nothing to do with the story at large.
Was this whole bar thing with like the animatronic NPCs, was that an event? So it was a permanent event that was somewhat tied to the story. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that event sucked ass. It was terrible. You're mixing drinks and like that was the main, I guess, gameplay piece, and then you're stun locked in dialogue for the latter half of it.
Seriously, what was the point? Just to set up that drink mixing mini?
Oh, there we go. Dude, I hated this thing so much. You guys want to know what the main mechanic of this was? It was just making sure that these numbers lined up. You were basically just adding and subtracting numbers under the guise of like drinks.
Game? Okay. Why is it
like,
in the main story quest?
What are we doing here,
man?
No
sense at all. Hoyoverse, listen. I get that you want to make this game a more cinematic experience. Cool.
The Acheron cutscenes were very cool.
I like movies, but to do that, you've got to learn a thing or two about, you know, cinema. Having people stand around talking for several minutes at a time with no changes in angle, character focus, zero character movement, or anything like that is just not interesting.
Seeing that entire sequence on time-lapse was absolutely nauseating. I cannot believe that I played this and completed this.
Like I mentioned before, there were way too many static shots or just straight up black screens in this patch. And here's the golden rule for cinematic storytelling, Hoyoverse.
Now, just the plain CG, nothing moves. It's just a 2D art and then 10 minutes of dialogue with the 2D art. That's disgusting, man. Honestly, it's kind of gross. Like, what would be the reasoning for that? Like,
oh, Satantis. They didn't want to spend too much budget on, rigging all of these characters and models for unique cutscenes.
So it's just like, remove all the bloated dialogue and then use that budget to just make quality animations and quality cutscenes and quality interactions. And just make it shorter so you don't have to do as much of it. Instead, you just bloat it with trash. This entire sequence over here, it's just bad. Why have this when you can cut the dialogue down and just make higher quality cutscenes that's more memorable, that people will look fondly back on? I am not looking back on this with any fondness. When I reflect on my experiences in Penacony, seeing this again, I am not looking forward to the future. This is not like Bellabog, right? Where you look back on Bellabog and you're like, that was good. The stuff coming up next, that's gonna be better. I look at this and I'm like, holy shit, how much worse is it going to get? If you're gonna spend 5 minutes with just this one art.
Just straight up black screens in this patch. And here's the golden rule for cinematic storytelling, Hoyoverse. Show, don't tell. In fact, there were a total of 35 minutes and 54 seconds of scenes with static images where
36 minutes of no anime. Why is this in the game? With a budget like Hoyoverse, you make, you know, according to Sensor Tower, right? Sensor Tower, right? You guys are making $40+ million just for mobile. Why do you not have the budget or like the resource planning or the management to just recognize that how does it happen? Why are the writers getting paid by the word instead of getting paid by the quality of the writing? You can tell a story better than this in a fraction of the time. If the script is too long, if there's too much dialogue, just cut it down so you don't dilute it with trash. This is trash. Like 7 minutes. 7 minutes of a static image, right? Like that's just one sequence. 7 whole minutes.
there's a grand total of 24 minutes, 7 seconds actually in battle. At this point, Honkai Star
Guys, there was more static dialogue. There was more static dialogue and black screens with text on them than time in battle. And remember, the more you invest in your characters, the less time you are spending in these battles. So that means that this number kind of just only gets lower for most players. This number just gets lower. The reality for a lot of people who have actually been playing this game is that it's more like 15 minutes, if not less. The more you play Honkai Star Rail, the less you get of the actual game because of how their story is designed.
At this point, Honkai Star Rail is the equivalent of Love and Deep Space, a visual novel with minor gameplay aspects. Which is
I haven't
fine
seen
for
that yet,
lads,
Troll.
because that's what they marketed themselves as. Can't say the same with Honkai Star Rail though. And this tell, don't show style storytelling, using that word very loosely, continued into 2.2 as well. I think you can tell what I'm going to
Tell, don't show is a very big thing, right? If you're spending 35 minutes of your 5-hour patch with static images with text, you are telling, you are not showing. Because how much can you show with a static, not moving, not animated image? Tell me how much you can.
Too much yap, not enough gameplay. At all. Not a single battle for 3 whole hours.
me.
And that one only lasted a couple of minutes too. In fact, there was one whole 15 minutes.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, my God. This is the worst duo in gacha gaming. This is the worst, like, NPC playable character duo in gacha gaming right here. This old man, Tiernan, this old bastard over here. I am 99% sure he could have talked faster and you wouldn't have lost much. He talks like this during the entire cutscene. That's what he sounds like the entire story quest. And he shows up so much and you're just like, get this octogenarian off my screen. Get it off my screen, please. They knew how popular Acheron was. Like they know, like right, the hype, right?
Oh my god, she's riding Shogun. Oh my gosh, she's riding Shogun from Genshin Impact. And she's also riding Mai from Honkai Impact 3. Oh my god, gotta pull this character. And then they understood that she was highly popular and they just sandbagged her. They just sandbagged all of her enjoyers by just pairing her up with the most boring NPC in gacha gaming. It's like they understood it and they were just like, hey, we gotta make it somehow. It's like a trade. It's like you have to sacrifice something always with this company. You couldn't just get Acheron being cool. You have to offset Acheron's coolness with trash. And it just makes, like, why? Why just sandbag her like this? Why sandbag her story like this?
Now, when I reflect back on Acheron and her involvement, all I can think about is this old fucking man who never stops talking.
Minute section of nothing but black screens and 2 static images. 15 fucking minutes. Jesus Christ. Imagine watching an episode of your favorite anime and it was just literally 1 or 2 pictures for the entire runtime. But at this point, I knew what I was kind of getting myself into, so let's just take it for what it is. Maybe I'll enjoy it more that way. Nope. But it's not as bad as Genshin. At least you don't have to listen to Paimon. Who needs Paimon? They do the exact same thing in Honkai Star Rail too. Repetitious, redundant dialogue talking about things we just did or things we don't care about. Sure, maybe it's not as annoying as Paimon's high-pitched screeching.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I am never reinstalling Genshin Impact. I am never touching that game ever again until they add a feature to remove Paimon from the game. If you don't like Abby, it's not as bad as this.
As Paimon's high-pitched screeching.
That's a lot worse than Abby. That's a lot worse than March 7th. That's the worst travel companion in gacha gaming right there.
Sunday telling us about how Robin got shot in the neck. Again, too much tell, not enough show. Why aren't we seeing it? Now, I don't mean to go the full PG-13 route or anything like that. I mean, think of the children. But they could have done it in a way where we take control of Robin for a short period of time, where we see her helping the civilians. We see the war-torn location.
This whole
the
Robin piece
desolation,
makes
the
sense.
despair, the tragedy, and Robin trying to be the shining ray of light, the song of hope for the people. We see her going around, helping people, and see hope return to their faces because of her. Then at the end, we can get a scene in the evening. The sun is setting, Robin's in the distance, backlit beautifully, leaving only a black silhouette. Then we hear a gunshot, and we see her fall to the ground. Fade to black.
I could see where somebody might disagree with this part because it is like a little bit visceral, right? And I don't know if you want to have like a playable character kind of have like this dramatic of a thing happen to them, you know, because it is like, you know, hey, they almost died and, you know, it's kind of like gruesome. But whatever he's saying definitely beats seeing Sunday inside of a goddamn carriage train, like leaning on his elbow and just like hearing Sunday yap about it. Whatever Ryuku just said for that whole Robin situation, that would have been a lot better. Even if you don't like his interpretation, it would have been a lot better than what we actually got. Because what we got was Sunday yapping inside of a carriage train for 20 minutes on a static 2D image, once again.
Cinema. Pure fucking cinema. We could have done all of that in about a 20 or 30 minute sequence. Reuse assets from Bellabog or something.
What they could have done was taken the screen time, the dialogue, out of all the trash, right? Out of all the other trash that they were doing static images for, and take all of that saved budget, all of that saved time in the actual runtime of the patch, and again, like I mentioned before, allocate it to stuff that is high quality, that's memorable, that people are going to look fondly back on when they think about this game. Because all I can do when I think about Penacony is how much time got wasted by these developers on shit nobody cares about.
It's not that hard. But no, we get Sunday yapping about it for several minutes, speaking in such a monotone drawl that it almost fell asleep.
Now you understand why she always wears such elaborate neck ornaments, don't you?
This was supposed to be his biggest motivating factor. This is why he was drawn to Order, and he talks with such apathy about the whole entire thing. His entire story is about him wanting to protect his sister, to keep her in a cage for her own protection, and she wants to be free despite the danger that might come to her.
He's very accurate about his breakdown.
It did start to explore interesting philosophical concepts with this plotline. They kept bringing up the question of is it better to be in a cage completely protected from harm, or is...
Who remembers this? Who remembers this? This was one of the most disgusting metaphors I have ever seen. I have never seen one metaphor repeated so many times that it begins losing its significance with the audience because they suddenly cannot differentiate it from regular language. That is what happened with this metaphor. They repeated it so many times that it almost didn't become a metaphor anymore. Now, I just think Robin is a bird. It's not that she's like a bird, she's just a bird at this point. It was ridiculous how often they brought this shit up. They like brought it up at the start of the quest, in the middle, and then like 2 times on the tail end. Disgusting.
Is it better to be free even though you may get hurt? The whole thing between Robin and Sunday is that their relationship is much like the bird in the cage flashback that was just brought up, and it was genuinely interesting. Well, it was the first time we heard it, but the amount of times they bring it up and not do anything with that concept.
Just so you guys know, he's not lying about this. It was brought up way too many times.
Till the very end just got annoying. I wasn't the only one that noticed this either. Even now there are people making Chominy Dove memes. I could go on about all the other things like how nobody seems to speak like a regular human being.
Still unwilling to reveal your true identity?
Why talk like a human when you can just basically be pretentious as hell in the writer's room, right? And basically make your audience second guess their own intelligence, right? Because they might not understand like what the actual meaning of this shit is.
It's not that I don't want to. It's just that I can't.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I hate this character. I hate Acheron so much. Not because of her design, but because of just every fucking thing that comes out of her mouth. It's not that I don't want to. It's just that I can't. I've come so far, and I can't sum up all of that in just a... What does this mean? Before hearing this, and then after hearing this, nothing has changed. This could have just been removed from the game and nothing changes. Other than, gosh, Acheron is slightly less annoying than what she used to be. What is the viewer? What is Welt getting out of this? What are we supposed to gain here? Is the story improved by having this in here? This is like the college kid trying to reach a word count on an essay.
Not to mention, a lot of the dialogue sounds like it was written by an edgy 13-year-old trying to be deep. Why does life slumber? You're fucking kidding me with that line. Are you... What the f does that...
Wait, let me play that again.
Why does life slumber?
Why does life slumber? Why does life slumber? What is the audience that is trying to get appealed to here when you ask, why does life slumber? Why does it slumber? If eyes aren't real, are we real? It's like Jaden Smith from 2011 wrote Penacony. You guys remember his tweet from like way back in the day? He's like, if our eyes aren't real, like how are mirrors real? Like, you guys remember that? It's like, this is exactly what is in Penacony. The Hoyoverse writers were inspired by Jaden Smith. He is the inspiration for Penacony. I've cracked the code. We just need to see what else Jaden is up to, and that's probably going to be 3.0.
People think that's deep. Yeah, okay, whatever. And other issues that aren't really Honkai Star Rail specific, like the single choice dialogue options or the illusion of choice, where you have like several options, but they all say practically the same thing and leads to no changes at all in the...
That's just like a gacha game thing. I almost view it as like an attention check. Like Wuwa does this a fair bit too, where you'll have like two dialogue options that are like slightly, you know, basically the same. Sometimes it'll have an ellipses, but then Wuwa does that like once a quest, like one time a quest. The rest of the dialogue options are actually a significant part of the story. The example that I am going to bring up here of Wuwa's dialogue options actually having meaning is Encore's story quest. At the start of Encore's story quest, you can tell Encore that you're going to be the captain or the vice captain of her exploration squad. And throughout the entire story quest, you get different dialogues depending on if you're the captain or the vice captain. That is something that Wuwa does that they're not afraid of doing, right? Because in gacha games, right, one of like the sins is like,
Oh my gosh, if we make unique individual paths based off the dialogue, then players won't be able to experience everything and they'll feel like they have FOMO.
Wuwa doesn't really give a shit about that, right? They're willing to put those different branching dialogues and sequences in the quests, right? And it adds to the experience afterwards, right? You actually feel like your dialogues actually have like some weight, the decisions that you're making there.
Dialogue tree, like what is the point? But at this point, I think I'd be kicking a dead horse. On the whole, I think the gameplay and story in Honkai Star Rail is good. What do you mean it's good? You've just been ranting about it this whole time.
See, this is the big distinction between Wuwa and like just Hoyoverse games in general. Wuwa's overarching actual story, right? The synopsis of Wuwa kind of sucks to a degree, right? That's why they've been doing a lot of rewriting. A lot of stuff is going to change in 2.0, right? There's a reason why it's considered like not the best overall story out of like the big gacha games, right? We can all agree on that, right? Like 1.0 clearly is like, it's a bit all over the place in terms of like what's going on. The actual storytelling though, like how it's written, right? The journey of, if it's like a book, it's not the synopsis anymore. It's like the experience flipping through the pages, right? The actual reading experience of Wuwa is good. It's good, and if you don't like it, you can skip it, right? But they've been giving us a lot of incentives not to skip because the storytelling is actually very, very good. It's well paced. If there's a black screen in a quest with like a little bit of dialogue, it's like there's like It's at a good time. It actually makes sense. It's not like the driving force of all of your interactions. And when they do, you know, static 2D images, it turns out that static 2D images can actually work out really well if you use more than one. If you use more than one static image for like a 3-minute dialogue, it works out pretty well. That's what Kuro did in Camelia's story quest. They gave us about like a rotating slideshow of about 10 static images that showed all the different realities, right? Or all the different timelines for Camellia. And that was superb. It was beautiful. It was amazing. It was well done. Versus Hoyoverse, right? They use one static image for a whole 7-minute dialogue. It's just the effort or the planning or the resource allocation. There is something just off. All for that pursuit of a 5-hour-long main story quest in Honkai Star Rail.
Listen to what I'm saying. The gameplay is good. The story is good. The storytelling is absolute horseshit.
The storytelling sucks ass in Honkai Star Rail. The synopsis is amazing, right? If I hear the summary of HSR, I'm like, wow, this sounds baller. This sounds amazing. Great experience, right? Like, I can see the progression, all the lows and the highs. This is cool, right? Then you have the actual experience of going through the story, and you have a static cutscene or a black screen dialogue for 35 minutes.
It doesn't matter if you think Honkai Star Rail's gameplay is the best that gacha games can be. It doesn't matter if the story is the best thing out there either. Now hear me out. You could have the most delicious kernel of corn in the world. This corn tastes so good it can change your life, and you'll never taste anything better than it in the entire world for the rest of your life.
This is a good analogy.
If that kernel of corn is encased in a giant dog turd, I don't care how good it tastes, I'm not fucking eating that shit.
This is perfect. This analogy is perfect because you have to factor in that if you have something great and you surround it with like needles or traps or just garbage, right? And you have to sift through the garbage to get there. It's not worth it. Even if it's great, it's not worth the punishment, the loss of self-respect, the mental damage, you know, the pain of going through all that poop just to get to the kernel of corn. I don't care how good the kernel is. And you know about Wuthering Waves? Wuthering Waves has okay corn. It has okay corn. And it's not covered in shit. And if you find that what it's covered in does taste like shit to you, you can just get a power washer called the skip button and wash all of that shit away. You don't have to do things you don't want to do in Wuthering Waves. While Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact, just for the example, right? They don't give you the option to avoid the things you don't want to do. And then they also make it, you know, kind of shit in the process.
Sure, the corn might be good, but getting there was an absolute nightmare, and I have the aftertaste of dog shit in my mouth. No thanks, I'm good. I've been meaning to play through 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6, but I just physically cannot get myself in the mindset of, I'm about to put myself through.
That's why I quit the game. There are so many players who have had this exact sort of mindset after reflecting on Penacony, after experiencing Penacony's story again, after going to the Zhanzhou Lofu for that little interlude, right, in 2.4. Everybody remembered all this shit, and they were just like, I'm not doing it again. I don't want to do this again. I'm tired of this. I am tired of my time getting wasted so that I can be a statistic on the developer's analytics.
Through torture right now. I'm about to put myself through torture. This is gonna hurt. This is gonna be painful. I am going to kill myself.
I like how he censored that. What a baller.
But why do I feel like this and the rest of the gacha community still raves about how good Honkai Star Rail is? Best storytelling? Are you fucking kidding me?
Got him.
This is what I think it is. The people who think Honkai Star Rail is good are those who jumped on Honkai Star Rail from day one. They've been playing it every day, piecemeal, and they haven't noticed the gradual decrease in quality, like a frog in boiling water. If a frog is put in boiling water, it will immediately jump out. But if the frog is in cold water and you slowly increase the temperature, it won't notice the danger and it will be cooked to death. You're cooked. You are quite literally cooked right now. Well, actually, modern scientists say that due to thermoregulation, frogs will still jump out, so you're actually wrong. George?
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!
Thank you, George. Even though I enjoy story-focused turn-based action RPGs, and I do, my favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy VIII, followed closely by Final Fantasy X. I just can't bring myself to drudge through dog storytelling.
Editor, I'm gonna need you to do a little bit of that when I do my...
well, actually, Saint Ardas.
Shut the fuck
like in Honkai Star Rail anymore. Even if I like the gameplay, as basic as it is, it's not worth it if it's only 5% of the game as a whole. No, wait, sorry, 3%. Almost gave it too much credit there. Fun but scarce gameplay, interesting
3%,
core story
ladies
ruined
and
by
gentlemen.
terrible writing. Seriously, does anybody talk like a regular human? Just one. I just need one person, please. Atrocious exposition, repetition, jargon, and a lot left unexplained, leaving players feeling unsatisfied. This is what 90% of Honkai Star Rail is right now. And even if the rest of the 10% is all good, all great even, 90% is still the vast majority. And that's why I say, as a whole, Honkai Star Rail fucking sucks ass.
I think that last bit, you know, it's a little bit, he's reaching a little bit to say that the entire game is bad, because, you know, there is, you know, the end game, it has a lot of end game modes, right? Like, they're trying to make a lot of characters viable in the end game modes, blah blah blah, right? But he does raise an excellent point in that there's a lot of story locked content. There's a lot of stuff that you kind of, a lot of like those great things like the end game modes, they are the golden kernels that you have to dig through shit to get, or I guess eat through shit to get through. And it's just playing the story is a natural part of the game. And if you're somebody that's saying, oh, just don't play the story in HSR, you're just giving really bad advice, right? You're giving a really bad critique and you're missing the point entirely. This is the viewpoint that I have on the skip button. The skip button is not present in this game because Hoyoverse wants the analytics. They want the playtime. The lack of a skip button basically gives them no accountability in the quality of their story. No accountability at all, because every player has to go through it to some degree. The fact that Wuwa has a skip button puts so much more accountability on the writers and their actual storytelling, because now you're making a business proposition. Our story is good enough to warrant experiencing it. We're giving you the option to skip it, but we're making the argument that it's not worth skipping, that it is something that you should experience, and it gives them the incentive, right? A lot of incentive, and almost in a way forces them to make a good story and make good storytelling. Because otherwise, right, if they don't do a good job in the storytelling, if the pacing is bad, right, if it is unenjoyable, people will skip it. People will skip it. But in Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact, it doesn't matter how shit the story, how shit the storytelling is, because there's no accountability, because there's no skip button. They know that it doesn't matter how bad it is, people will have to play through all of it. And that means it's easy to get lazy. It's easy not to try. It's easy to put in bullshit into the story because you know that there's no punishment for actually doing it. In Wuwa, they give you reasons not to skip because they know the option's there. And so they actually put effort into making it high quality every step of the way, because they know people can just skip it if it's not good. So it's an incentive for it to be good. If anything, people playing Genshin Impact or playing Honkai Star Rail, they should be begging for a skip button, because that forces the developers to make their storytelling good. Negative incentives. Believe me, a lot of people talk about how negative incentives don't work. They do. The threat of punishment is a really good reason to do things well.
Hey guys, just something I want to say to everyone out there. If you like Honkai Star Rail, just keep in mind that this is not a personal attack on you.
Look at this guy covering his ass. Should I do an afterward like this after the react? Hey, Honkai Star Rail players, you know, if you found any of the things that I said, you know, about your favorite game offensive, you know, it's not that big of a deal, right? Who cares? I don't care. The game has a lot of bad parts to it.
I'm gonna say you're stupid for liking it. But these are the reasons why, personally, I don't like this game, and I just needed to get them off my chest for everyone to hear, because very often I hear people say that they like Honkai Star Rail, I say I don't, and they say why. And whenever that comes up now, I can just point to this video and say, just watch this and you'll understand why. As I mentioned before, there's a lot to like about Honkai Star Rail. Like the game.
I agree with him completely. There's a lot that Honkai Star Rail does well. Like, there are certain character designs, certain animations, certain interactions and character kits that are wonderful, right? That are really fun to play. And that, you know, it's something that you work for, you grind for. It gives a lot of incentives to keep playing, right? But again, like I've mentioned in the past when I do a lot of like comparisons between Wuwa and Genshin Impact or Hoyoverse in general, everything comes with strings attached, and it never feels like you're actually getting like something good without a catch. Everything in Hoyoverse, everything always feels like you have to like get slapped in the face or kicked in the nuts or like spat on, right? To some degree, to get to the enjoyable things, like to get to the fun parts or the good bits. It's like there's just always a catch. There's just always something wrong that you have to get through. And it's this never-ending feeling of these developers are like, they can do a good job, but they always use like their good features and their good additions and their good products as a vehicle to deliver garbage in some way. And the end result is that there's just so much garbage across the entire 2.0 of Honkai Star Rail. It was like a little bit of garbage delivered every single patch. And then you didn't notice, right? Because it didn't stink that much, right? The garbage didn't stink that much when it was coming in a little by little bit. Now that we've gotten to the end of 2.0, that pile of garbage is so big that it's so big and so stinky, you can't play the game anymore. And that's what Honkai Star Rail has turned into. Genshin Impact at this point, there's so much garbage that it's just an entire trash dump. It's radioactive. It's a biohazard at this point. That's Genshin Impact. And Wuthering Waves, on the other hand, is just obviously, right?
Oh, you're a curl about Giga Glazer in the chat.
They don't have strings attached. They don't have a catch. They just add new features. They just add new quality of life. They just add good things. They don't bring garbage with it. Natlan, incredibly fun, great exploration, amazing new geography. By the way, you can't do anything in the region unless you pull the limited characters. Everything has a string attached with this company. You cannot get anything good without sacrificing. It feels like you are getting taken advantage of at every single turn. Across all of their games, too. Every single game. It's like their meta. You know how there's a follow-up meta? There's a vaporized meta? This is the Hoyoverse strings attached meta. Never give the customers anything good unless you're going to give them something shitty, too. But the main thing that I just love about WoWa, right, is that people are seeing publicly all these gacha game players, they're just seeing this company get all of these new features, all of these wonderful things, and then the player base isn't making sacrifices to get them, right? They're not getting screwed over. They don't have to pay, like, you know, it's like every feature update and great thing that they're adding to the game isn't at the expense of the player in some way or another. Players get great things in WoWa every single patch for free. The developers are genuinely just trying to make a better game. Hoyoverse quite literally degrades the quality of their game. They make their game worse in many ways for the pursuit to create FOMO and make more money. They will actively put in systems that lower the player experience and make it worse for players. For money. WoWa puts dupes in the shop. They put their dupes in the shop. And it's night and day how these companies interact with their player base. It is literally night and day. Every single patch. Has there ever been a QOL update that Wuthering Waves players have not liked? Has there ever been a QOL update that Wuthering Waves players have complained about? Genshin, artifact selector. Huh? Imagine that your attempt at equality of life was laughed at and called shit by the player base. Imagine that. That is how stingy and how anti-player Hoyoverse is. Even when they try to add QOL, they fuck it up. That's crazy. That's crazy. How do you mess up QOL? It's just supposed to be good, but they fucked it up. I used to like Genshin Impact. I used to really like Genshin Impact. I thought it was one of the best games ever. I thought it was amazing. And one of the big things that I was really looking forward to with Natlan was the opportunity to see that Genshin Impact now has a competitor, right? That this developer, this lead developer, CEO, Dawei, he was crying. He was talking about how players don't like Genshin Impact either. And that they were going to make changes. They were going to do things that were going to make the game better, right? That was going to bring Genshin back. And then they proceeded to do literally the exact opposite and make Natlan the worst region in the history of Genshin Impact. Literally the worst region, like Google search, Google trend-wise, like all of its results, right? It is literally the worst received region in Genshin Impact history. It is the least popular it has ever been. Have you guys seen Mavuika's drip? Mavuika's drip marketing? Ryadley's birthday teaser or his birthday post has more likes than Mavuika's drip. Ryadley's fucking birthday post has more likes than the Archon of Natlan's drip marketing. That's how shit the region is. After Dewey cried and talked about making the game good. I'm telling you, it is so clear that shit was just a lie. That's crazy, man. How do you cry in front of like your entire audience during a live stream, right? Talk about how like you talk to so many travelers and that you're gonna make the game better and that you recognize what the problems are, and then release with the most predatory character design in the history of the game. Natlan characters, right? They are only usable in Natlan. And you know what that means? They have an expiration date. These Natlan characters have an expiration date. There is a point in time, right, when Genshin Impact goes to Snezhnaya, right? And then the Natlan characters will expire. They will quite literally, like, lose value, like a ton of value immediately. These characters have an expiration date. They will curdle. They're milk that's being left outside. And you're telling me that is their big improvement to the game? That's what Dewey cried for? Limited characters with an expiration date? Oh, fuck me, man. There's no way. Right? There's like these characters have a time limit. What? It's like it's like they might as well just say, by the way, guys, these characters, they basically might as well not exist the second we get to Snezhnaya. Oh, I don't know how you go from your CEO crying and talking about how they're gonna make the game, that they've been listening to players, that they're gonna do all these things, and then literally create the worst character design in gacha gaming. I don't get it.
The character
Disgusting.
design, the music is amazing. Some of the phonetic cutscenes and all that, I really enjoy all of those. But when it comes to actual core gameplay itself, in comparison to how much of it we actually get in this game, I don't think it measures up. And the further we go along in Honkai Star Rail, the further I feel like Hoyo just doesn't really want us to play this game like at all. Like.
The further we get in Honkai Star Rail, it just seems like Hoyo doesn't want us to play this game at all.
I mean, yeah, if it takes me 15 fucking hours to get through Penacony and then 50% of it is static images and dialogue, yeah, I guess they really don't want me to play this game. And I did what they wanted. I stopped playing, and so many others did too.
With the whole auto battling system, it's very useful. It's very convenient as well, so don't get me wrong on that. But like with the amount of, or should I say, the lack of combat or the lack of gameplay in the actual story itself.
You want to know what the funny thing is, guys? I see a lot of people like Cimarine, right? They're saying 2.6 of Honkai Star Rail is what made people quit. This guy hasn't played 2.6 yet. This guy hasn't played 2.6 yet. And I don't think he will. Maybe he will for content. But this is his thoughts without even playing that version. That's crazy. That is the power of recency bias. That is the power of first impressions. Hoyoverse abused their success in Belobog. They used the immense success and the great pacing and the high quality of Belobog to give you dog shit for the entire calendar year. We were taken advantage of.
Combined with more recent characters such as Akron using her skill to instantly get rid of the other mobs as well. It just feels like more and more they're just giving us more reasons not to do the thing that we came to this game to do in the first place. Does that make sense? And I'm sure I'm going to hear some people say, well, just don't use Akron then. Well, that's, first of all, that's completely missing the point. Second of all, you realize that when you say that, when you're talking like that you sound like the people that are defending Genshin that are saying, oh, well, just don't use Hyperbloom then. Like, why would I not use what I have in my arsenal? And it's the same thing I'm hearing quite often. All the things I hear people say that they hate about Genshin, they defend vehemently in Honkai.
All the things I hate about Genshin, or all the things people hate about Genshin, they vehemently defend in Honkai Star Rail. Again, guys, that is the power of Belobog. Ryuku, this is amazing content, and I do believe that with my react, I have taken it to the next level.
I just don't understand why. I don't understand why they give Honkai Star Rail a pass when they absolutely rag on
Ryuku. The reason why all the stuff that's talked about Genshin Impact is praised in Honkai Star Rail is because people are still high on Belobog. Belobog was such a great introduction to the game for a lot of people, and it almost set like this tone, right? That everything's going to be good, and just gives this motivation for a lot of people to just justify every decision that Hoyoverse is making in regards to the game. right? Because they hit it out of the park in version 1.0, and then the natural assumption from every player is it can't really be this bad. Hoyoverse knows how to do a good story, right? It really isn't that bad. There's something wrong with me because I don't like it, because we know they can do well because of Belobog. But now, ever since the writing shifted and we're seeing this happen over and over and over and patch over patch over patch, people are now just like, there wasn't something wrong with me. There's something wrong with Honkai Star Rail. There's something wrong with this game.
Against you for it. They're both just as bad in my opinion. I know this video is going to get downvoted.
And yeah, you have the right
but
opinion.
That's fine.
You have the right opinion because you started in 2.1 and you got to see the entire journey, or you got to experience the entire journey at once. And that's going to be where I juxtapose like the 1.0 to 2.0 experience in Honkai, or 2.5 Honkai Star Rail experience, to the 1.0 to 1.4 Wuthering Waves story. I am 99% sure when people are on the PS5 and they're starting up Wuthering Waves for the first time and they're experiencing the story of Wuthering Waves from 1.0 to 2.0, they're gonna have a fine time. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be good. Because nothing is obtusely long enough to feel like it's wasting your time like this. And if you ever do feel that, you're gonna be able to skip it. You're gonna be able to skip it and get to the stuff you wanna see. You don't give a shit about Dreamless? Skip it. Fuck it, whatever. Oh, they updated the 1.0 story too? Well, fuck. Now I have to make a new account and then see what it actually is. I probably have to see what the differences are now. Holy shit. Because I'm pretty sure they made some big improvements.
I know that's just what it's going to be. I'll take Duke Sensei in this case, I guess. Because I bet most of the people won't really watch past the first 30 seconds. They'll just leave it a downvote, a negative comment, and just go on with their life.
Well, Ryuku, this video is sitting at I do believe, like a 77% like ratio. So you're wrong.
And again, that's just the nature of things. Another thing I know that's going to happen is I'm going to get people in the comments saying you only dislike it because you're a Kuro shill for Wuthering Waves, and that's just not the case. I made my first video about Honkai Star Rail way back in March, if I remember correctly, way before Wuthering Waves came out, and I've always had these opinions about Honkai Star Rail. So it really isn't a case of me wanting to shill for any particular game or company over another one. It's just the way I feel about this.
Ryuku, I've told you this before, man. You are too scared of looking like a shill. The people that think you're a shill after watching this video 500 years ago would have been in a mental asylum. They would have been burned at the stake. They would have been excommunicated from the church. But if you are somebody that has watched this video of Ryuku and you think that he is a shill, you have problems. Because he has brought so much evidence, such great reasoning, and amazing examples that you have simply decided to take reality, reject it, and substitute your own. And that is what mentally ill people do. In my opinion, you shouldn't cater to people that don't make sense, that refuse logic, because those are the types of people that will corrupt you and turn you nonsensical.
In fact, I actually have another video in the works right now, kind of being really quite critical about Wuthering Waves. Maybe not as hard as this video here, but still quite critical. So, I don't know. Take that for what it's worth. But to all you out there that actually watch this video to the end, just know that I greatly appreciate you, even if you disagree with me on Honkai Star Rail. It's just different things.
All right, now we're just glazing the viewers here, man. Come on. Come on, man. Come on, man.
For different people, you know? And while I'm recording this, the latest live stream hasn't been announced yet, so I have no idea what the new stuff is going to be like. But honestly, I don't really think it matters.
Like, guys, 35 minutes of static images and black screen white text. 35 minutes of it. How are you justifying that to any degree without looking stupid?
Matters to me at all. I'm going to say it again. If you liked Penacony, if you like Honkai Star Rail, all the best to you. I honestly don't.
Ryuku, what you have to do is you need to tell people, if you enjoy 35 minutes of black screen, white text, and static images and dialogue, don't compliment them. Don't talk good about people like that. That only perpetuates the cycle of garbage. It gives them a reason to perpetuate the cycle of garbage. Just don't acknowledge those people. Why? So more people will be like them? Then the world is gonna go to shit.
Really care, it's fine. Like I said, I'm not gonna say you're stupid for liking Honkai Star Rail. Everyone likes different things.
Call them stupid for liking 35 minutes, okay? 35 minutes of static images. Call them stupid. Please.
And these are just the reasons why it doesn't suit my particular taste. It's nothing to do with me not liking story. I do. It's not me not liking turn-based action RPGs.
I'll say it myself. If you liked static images and black screen white dialogue for 35 minutes, you're stupid.
I do. It's just, I don't feel like this game respects my time as a player. If they cut
Absolutely.
out all of the fat and all the redundancy and all this just absolute yap and bloat, I think I'd really enjoy it, but it doesn't. Well, not yet anyway. I haven't even done like a 2.6 and I'm already hearing like all the banana memes, so...
Are you gonna play 2.6, Ryuku?
Yeah,
I don't
really
know, man. It looks like you're on...
And by the
looks
time
like you're
I
like
edit this video,
you're
I think
6
it's
feet
actually
from the
gonna come
edge at this
after that
point,
live
man.
stream as well. So I'm going to be dealing with all that. So everyone's going to be coming off...
I think you brought up 2.6 in the video and it almost looked like you were about to cry.
to that live stream as well. So I'm going to...
You look like you're about to cry right here just thinking about 2.6. Like your eyes are like watering.
Yeah, I don't really know.
wait, right here.
All the banana memes, so whatever.
Right there, as you're like right at this cut. Look at your face, dude. Look at like you're thinking about it right now, and you're just like they're like war flashbacks, right? You're like 50, 60 years old at this point. You're thinking about everything bad that has happened in your life, like right here at this moment, and 2.6 is the reason why. Just look at that. Like, that's somebody that's reflecting on pain.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about this. And by the time I edit this video, I think it's actually going to come out after that live stream as well. So I'm going to be dealing with all that. So everyone's going to be coming off that high for the latest live stream, and they're going to see this video and just absolutely rip into it. And that's fine.
They didn't rip into it. They didn't rip into it. You want to know why? Because, Ryuku, you were the first person that decided to actually speak up about this, and it just so turns out you have the majority opinion. But everybody is so scared of talking badly about Hoyoverse games that nobody else wanted to talk about this. But the reality of the situation is, and we saw it from the US election, right? The silent majority does in fact exist. And I think there has been a lot of way too much mind share given to people that, especially when it comes to games like this, Hoyoverse games, they really argue a lot more with like feelings and how they felt about things than the actual facts of the matter. And you know what? You bringing so much fact, so much statistics, so much percentages into this conversation has given those individuals no leg to stand on. No leg at all. And that's why everybody is coming out of the woodworks right now and agreeing with you. Because the space has been dominated by just too many people who, again, refuse logic, substitute their own, and force streamers, force communities, force content creators to agree with them. Otherwise, they're gonna get flamed. And you're somebody who had the balls to do it. And I'm somebody that has the balls to follow up. That was a lot more fun than I thought it was gonna be. That was a lot more fun. Hopefully that was fun for you guys too.